Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on the royal family. We provide you with the exciting news, breaking William's doctrine cuts Camilla's family from royal ceremonies. According to palace insiders, a recent set of internal administrative adjustments in the British monarchy has caused a lot of anxiety among senior members of the royal family. These modifications focused on the ceremonial status of Queen Camilla's children and grandchildren. Some insiders say that a decree which some say came from the office of the Prince of Wales has officially limited the honorary and ceremonial recognition that the Queen's non-royal relatives had been informally given before. The measure is being seen as a turning point in Prince William's changing role both within and outside the palace. It is seen as an indication that he is embracing a harsher, more conventional view of how the crown should be made up and presented in the future. The decision was not announced in a public declaration. Instead, it was communicated via revisions to internal protocols that were sent out to official royal administrative networks. The wording of the circulating paper was administrative and intentionally stiff, but its effects were felt by many. By clearly defining the limits of the formal royal circle, the document essentially took away any special status that members of Queen Camilla's family had in future ceremonial lists, state events, and official documents. For some who thought that Camilla's family would gradually be included in the ceremonial life of the court, the new direction was a big change from an attitude that had been more open since Camilla married the Prince of Wales in 2005. For a long time, Camilla's son Tom Parker Bowles, her daughter Laura Lopes, and their 5 children were in a special and frequently unclear position on the edge of the monarchy. They weren't royal by blood and never had official titles, but they started showing up more and more often at important family and state events. Their attendance at events like Trooping the Color of the Royal Maundy service and other rituals gave them a type of informal recognition. They were close to the king and took part in ceremonial life without having any official position or public financing. That semi-official exposure became a common trend that many people in the institution and in the public saw as an indication of a new mixed-up way of living as a royal family. Those who were informed on the new procedure say that it suddenly terminated that time of integration. People who know the Prince of Wales well say he sees this step as necessary to restore what he has called constitutional purity in his own mind. He is said to see the monarchy as an institution defined by bloodline public duty and formal roles rather than as an extended family network where sentimental ties might blur institutional boundaries. Supporters say the shift is structural, not personal, but the emotional damage within the palace has been huge. Sources say that the measure's quick adoption was both unexpected and quite personal, especially for Queen Camilla, who was allegedly shocked by the decision and by how quickly it was put into action. Witnesses report that the royal household's first response was one of clear astonishment and uneasiness. The issuance of the edict sparked urgent talks and made the working relationship between the King and the Prince of Wales's offices noticeably colder. People who are watching say that the move shouldn't be seen as just a little change to the way the government works, but as a deliberate policy decision that will affect how the monarchy does business. It shows how power changes hands before a formal succession. The heir apparent is actively molding the institution he is supposed to inherit. Many people think that Prince William's actions show that he is serious about setting clear limits on who may be a member of the royal family and who is just an outside relative. Insiders say that for Queen Camilla, the order seemed like more than just a change in procedure. It was the end of a legacy she had been quietly building for over 20 years. Camilla's time in the royal family has changed her in many ways. She was formerly a very controversial public figure, and she had to deal with years of media scrutiny and popular criticism before becoming queen consort. Court sources claim that her return to public life was the result of a long-term plan of being discreet, steady, and doing her royal responsibilities well. Along with that public activity, she also had a more private project, slowly bringing her own family into the larger royal circle. That procedure was not carried out via demands or statements. After she was married in 2005, her kids and grandkids mostly stayed out of the public eye, unlike elder royals who are often in the news. But over time, they got more invites to family and ceremonial functions, and their attendance grew increasingly noticeable. The Parker Bowles family was often there, which made others feel more comfortable with them and included them. In practice, if not in law, they were viewed as part of an extended royal family. The most obvious sign of such merger was in May 2023 when King Charles III was crowned. Three of Camilla's grandsons, Gus and Louis Lopes and Freddie Parker Bowles, served as pages of honor during the wedding. This was a big change from how things had been done for hundreds of years. The position of page of honor is usually given to young members of the nobility or those who are closely related to the king or queen. It entails important tasks during state processions, such as carrying the train of the king or queen. Putting them on the coronation platform with Prince George and other young courtiers was quite meaningful. It placed Camilla's grandkids at the center of one of the monarchy's most famous ceremonies, and for many people it was a public way of saying that Camilla was queen consort and that her family was important in the monarchy's public story. Insiders often point to less obvious ways that institutions show their support in addition to these visible gestures. According to courtiers, more and more internal correspondence referred to Camilla's children and grandkids as Her Majesty's family. This gave them a kind of official standing in certain situations. Media briefings started to include their names more often, and sometimes photographers were quietly told to make sure they were in official pictures. These activities showed that the organization was modernizing by allowing a mixed family to fit in with the ceremonial and visual language of the institution. Supporters saw the reforms as a humanitarian way to deal with modern family life, while detractors saw them as a creeping institutionalization of personal allegiance. People in the palace had different reactions. Some authorities praised the changes as a harmless and essential modernization of an institution that has been stuck in its ways for a long time. They said that showing respect to the immediate relatives of a queen consort is a natural way to show devotion and respect for the home. Others, on the other hand, were not convinced. They thought that include Camilla's lineage was part of a long-term plan to make sure that her family had a permanent position in the institution. Some people who were cautious said that she understood that public fondness might change quickly, but that institutional permanency can be developed by time subtlety and include family members in rituals, customs, and homes related to the monarchy. If done carefully, this incremental remapping remained mostly undetected for a long time. At the same time, the Prince and Princess of Wales were said to be watching these events with growing anxiety. People say that Prince William sees the monarchy as a constitutional institution rather than an extended family business. He grew up under Queen Elizabeth II's lengthy reign and learned a lot about how important it is for the monarchy to be stable, clear, and keep the private and public lives apart. He has openly called for modernization in areas like public involvement, environmental policy, and mental health, but his idea of institutional transformation seems to be limited by a rigorous devotion to lineage and official obligation. He thinks that modernization shouldn't make it hard to tell who is constitutionally a member of the monarchy. The prince saw Camilla's grandkids being given ceremonial jobs and being seen at official occasions as more than just gestures of inclusion. He saw them as a move away from the clarity he thinks the institution needs. People who spoke about his point of view said he was worried that the normalization of private persons being at civic and constitutional events would lead to criticism, especially because people were paying more attention to royal spending and privilege. He thought that giving those without official duties a lot of attention may hurt public confidence and lead to suspicions of favoritism. People say that Princess Catherine has the same worries. She is very aware of propriety and public image since she joined the royal family when the media and public were watching closely. People close to her say that she agrees with her husband that the working royals' inner circle should be small and that only individuals with constitutional positions should have the benefits of being seen and having official backing, not people who are close to them or married to them. The Prince of Wales is said to have ordered a thorough and private examination of palace rules based on these ideas. People who knew what the study was about said it looked at things like ceremonial processes, guest lists, seating arrangements, and records of times when Camilla's relatives had been given special access. People who know the prince well say that he was more administrative than confrontational. He asked for briefings, looked at past cases, and tried to make sure that everything he did was in line with what he thought were institutionally acceptable norms. He characterized the purpose not as personal animus, but as institutional preservation, striving to depict a monarchy whose public face was constant, transparent, and based in the unmistakable logic of succession and duty. The first steps were little and frequently followed a set of rules. Non-working royals, such as members of the extended Windsor family, who did not have formal tasks or receive public support, were less visible. As time went on, the Parker Bowles family became the center of attention. Their names and faces slowly disappeared from invitation lists, seating charts, and other official papers. The people who put the plan into action wanted to bring back what they thought was the monarchy's essential structure, a shift from informal inclusion to a clearer, rule-bound way of doing things. From the prince's point of view, this was neither a revolt against his father or a personal assault on his stepmother. Instead, it was a way to protect the crown's long-term legitimacy. The review's ultimate result was sent out as an official order. It came via normal administrative routes, such internal memos and protocol changes, without a public announcement or a private chat. The statement didn't use a lot of fancy language, but it did take away all of the ceremonial privileges, symbolic positions, and informal acknowledgments that had been given to Camilla's family. It took the names of Tom Parker Bowles, Laura Lopes, and their kids off of future ceremonial lists and internal lists for state occasions. There wasn't much space for doubt in the text. It made it plain that the Queen's family was outside of a definite institutional boundaries. The way it was put into action was impressive for how quickly and accurately it was done. The official royal website, which is a main way for the public to communicate with the royal family, was changed to eliminate a section that had previously recognized the Queen's extended family. This made them less visible in the institution's digital image. Internal staff got new instructions on what language to use. One report said that officials were told that non-lineal relatives of the Queen consort shall no longer be extended ceremonial access or official acknowledgement. The wording was said to be legalistic and devoid of emotion, and it was meant to reset practice and expectations. The new regulations said that those who didn't have royal blood or a legitimate job should not be allowed to participate in official ceremonies. This meant that guest lists for planned events, including important state and social gatherings, had to be changed. To some who had thought of the previous time as one of grace and compromise, the process seemed like a public erasing. People close to Queen Camilla believed that the move was a very personal insult to her. The symbolic things that had important to her, like making her grandkids more visible and tying her family's names into the royal story, were being slowly undone. The emotional effects were really strong. Reports say that the Queen was told the news not in a private discussion, but via a briefing from an advisor. The impersonal way it was delivered made her feel even more shocked and betrayed. People who knew her well said that her first response was a mix of fury and sadness. This was exceptionally strong for a public person who was used to keeping her cool. After the revelation, she allegedly canceled many appointments without much explanation to the public and told her top staff to clear her calendar. Witnesses who saw her at this period said she was full of anger and sadness, lamenting not just the loss of prestige for her family, but also what she saw as the end of a personal legacy. Friends say that one reason she was so upset was because she thought the Princess of Wales was involved in the decision. People who know Camilla and Catherine believe that their public relationship has been friendly but not close. Camilla felt that Catherine's belief that she not only agreed with, but also actively backed her husband's agenda, was a second betrayal, one that hurt more than the shift in administration itself. Some people who saw the two ladies together in public later said they could see a clear frost between them, such as the Queen not acknowledging her daughter-in-law in any way. Another thing that Camilla said in private comments that haven't been verified was that the instruction was a way of bringing up old issues related to the late Princess of Wales. She is said to have told a close friend that she saw the action as Diana's revenge through him, which suggests that the prince's decision was at least partly influenced by the emotional legacy of his mother. This view, whether literal or metaphorical, underscores the intricate psychological and historical dynamics inside the family as the enduring impact of previous events shapes perceptions and behavior. King Charles III was stuck in the middle of these conflicts. For decades, he had protected Camilla even though the people didn't like her and the institutions didn't want him to marry the lady he chose. Having her at his side has been both personal and calming. But the present issue has apparently left him in a tough, emotional spot. He is caught between being loyal to his wife and feeling that he has to help his son establish the future monarchy. People who knew the king said he was emotionally frayed following the fight and was becoming more reclusive and avoiding direct confrontation. People say that he told Prince William to do things more gently and quietly, and that he pushed for more respect for his wife's dignity and a slower transition. He didn't disagree with the idea of making the monarchy's membership clearer, but he did ask that the change be made in a way that wouldn't embarrass his wife in public. Prince William, on the other hand, was firm. He said that the reform needed to be clear and quick to work, and that policies needed to be open to stop the institution from being confused and criticized all the time. Queen Camilla felt quite abandoned when the king seemed unwilling to go against his son's wishes. She thought of his silence as a failure to protect her, since she had been there for him at times of public shame and private stress. His silence hurt her more than any official remark, since it showed that he cared more about the institution than about her allegiance. The king tried to be a bridge between his wife's pain and his son's ambition to stay in school, but he failed. The episode showed a big change in where power lies. The current king no longer has full control over choices that may affect the future of the monarchy. The heir apparent is becoming more and more important, and Prince William's cooler, more disciplined approach to running the palace is becoming a reality. This change in actual power is not only a symbol. In the last several years, the royal household has made more decisions on things like public appearance, engagement strategy, and budget allocation from a single place. The prince's staff has grown in size and is now able to hire outside experts, do independent evaluations, and make adjustments to how ceremonies and communications are run. So this edict is part of a larger pattern in which the heir apparent uses his power to make sure that existing practices are in line with what he thinks are important for the crown's future and relevance. You can already see the direction of that stewardship in the way things are done every day. The main idea underlying the latest actions is clarity. The monarchy must have a consistent constitutional face. The new ideology says that only those with royal lineage and an official functioning connection with the crown should be able to see and be seen in the institution. This change is happening in real life. The guest lists for important events like Garter Day, Trooping the Color, and state dinners have been changed, and those who don't have a constitutional function have been taken out of the most public parts of ceremonial life. The result is that the public royal circle is becoming smaller, with just a few working Windsors at the center of attention and nearby relatives slowly fading away. Some people have nicknamed it William's Doctrine, and palace personnel have been told to follow it. The monarchy is not for comfort, it is for clarity. A statement that has been heard in closed-door discussions sums up the spirit of recent reforms. In practice, it has meant getting rid of unofficial ways of having an effect, stopping backdoor deals for guests to get in, and reevaluating the safety and logistical measures for those who were close to the palace because of personal connections rather than official duties. In the past, an informal system of favor let consorts give their family greater power. Now that system is being cut back in favor of a more strict rule-based one. Part of the reason for this change is because it responds to what the public wants. People who know Prince William say that he is aware of the rising skepticism about unfettered privilege and the idea that government money may be used to pay for people who don't have defined public roles. His reasoning is preventative by making it harder to get public-facing jobs and official help. The monarchy lowers the chances of getting censure from the people and the Constitution. The outcome is an institution that trades some of the warmth that comes from having a diverse extended family for a tighter view of constitutional validity. Public opinion and media scrutiny are strong influences that affect the choices made in the palace. The royal household has grown more aware of how pictures and opinions might make them politically weak. Controversies that get a lot of attention, such those over security, private travel, or the use of public monies, may hurt the goodwill that gives the monarchy its soft power. In this context, the prince's action might be seen as proactive risk management, getting rid of possible flashpoints before they turn into bigger stories about unjust privilege. There is also a constitutional reason for this. The British monarchy functions within an unwritten constitutional framework characterized by tradition, history, and public expectation that delineate permissible practices. Constitutional function and succession are intimately related to formal duties, honors, and appointments. The palace under William's influence wants to make ceremonial practice fit with the idea that visible privilege should come with public duty. To do this, it draws a clear distinction between individuals with inherited claims and those without. Supporters say that this improves the crown's moral power instead of weakening it. Queen Camilla is in an uncomfortable position while these adjustments are still being made. Her family has been left out of several official stories about the monarchy, and her informal power seems to be limited by her stepson's growing power. People who have seen her deal with problems say you shouldn't assume she will just accept this erasure. Reports say she is engaging trusted advisors, legacy experts, and media specialists to create measures for preserving her life's work and ensuring the memory of her family's role, if not inside the institution's official annals, then in a larger public record. There has been a lot of speculation about what may happen next. One option would be to hire someone to write an authorized biography or work together on a documentary that lets her share her own point of view. Another possibility that would be more surprising is a memoir. This would be an unusual move for a queen consort and might cause additional problems in the family. Supporters say that these kinds of projects would give her control over the story and make sure that her family's position is not completely erased. Less aggressive ways to build on her legacy include giving to charity and speaking in public without the palace's approval. By putting charity work and patronage at the center of her public life, she could renew her public image without having to recognize her relations in public. Selective media efforts with friendly framing might likewise fortify popular support while avoiding direct institutional confrontation. Every possible answer has some risk. A high-profile book or media campaign may be seen as resistance, which would make family tensions worse and turn off those who like institutional discretion. On the other hand, a private effort to keep family memories alive may not get much attention if government acknowledgement is what makes history important. It is believed that senior advisors are carefully assessing these trade-offs, knowing that every public move would be looked at closely for both its substance and its purpose. In the meanwhile, the monarchy's machinery keeps working. Preparations for future state events are going on with new rules, and guest lists show that the standards for being invited have become stricter. For some staff, the change is disturbing since they had become accustomed to a long period of family warmth. For others, it means the end of an age of accommodating. For others, it is a needed return to order rules and clear definitions of constitutional responsibilities. Ceremonial life relies on careful preparation and following the rules. Alterations like this need a lot of logistical alterations, such seating charts, processional orders, press briefings, program text, and the choreography of pageantry. Protocol teams must find a way to balance new lines of inclusion with respect for personal connections and ceremonial sensitivities. This is a hard compromise when choices have clear emotional effects. Insiders argue that the palace is less split by personal hatred than by different ideas about what the monarchy should stand for in the 21st century. At its heart, the disagreement is between two ideas, one that wants a more contemporary image that acknowledges the reality of mixed families, and the other that wants the institution to be defined by bloodline and constitutional purpose. Prince William has selected the latter. He seems to think that the crown can only survive if it gets rid of emotional allowances and reaffirms the inexorable logic of duty and bloodline. With that option, the gate has closed quietly and precisely under the hand of a future monarch who is already in charge of the institution's current direction. It's not clear what the long-term effects of this quiet rearrangement will be on the personal connections at the core of the royal family and on the monarchy as a whole. In the near term, royal life will be most affected by fewer people on the palace steps, smaller processions, and a public production that uses fewer official actors. But over time, the effects might be more serious. A royal family that is limited in size may be easier to support financially and politically, since it will have clearer lines of responsibility and a simpler public story. But it can also seem less relevant to those whose ideas about family have changed in the last several decades. There is also a generational aspect. A prince who grew up with social media constant scrutiny and a greater public desire for openness is shaping the throne. His decisions show that he is thinking strategically about what will keep institutions relevant in a democratic age. Fewer variables, fewer possible disputes, and a clearer statement of who does public obligations. Camilla, on the other hand, focused on a different kind of modernity, one that tried to make the monarchy more relatable by showing how mixed families fit within ceremonial life. No matter whether side is right, decisions about ceremony and acknowledgement are choices about memory and legacy. Who is in the family pictures? Who is mentioned in the program notes? Whose features are linked to the rituals that shape the institution? These questions will help form the archive that historians and the public will use to remember this time. This story serves as a reminder that the monarchy, despite its antiquity, is a dynamic institution characterized by behaviors negotiated between private life and public responsibility. The relationship between the sovereign heir apparent consort and their families is political by nature, since it entails conflicting assertions of power, symbolism, and the administration of public trust. The current directive reveals how such assertions are put into action, using bureaucratic tools like rules memoranda and website revisions that may have instant effects on people. In the next weeks and months, people will be watching to see how the parties adapt to the new balance. Will Camilla and her family find new ways to be recognized outside of official royal events? Will Prince William's concept of clarity bring back public trust and prove that a tighter approach is needed? Will the king negotiate a more compassionate implementation that avoids personal harm while maintaining institutional reform? There is a chance for each result, and it will rely on the person's personality, common sense, and ability to handle the optics of power with care. The palace is dealing with the fallout from a choice that, although it seemed like an administrative one, has revived old emotional scars and changed the balance of power. It's evident what the immediate practical result is. The Parker Bowles family's ceremonial role has been cut down, and the royal household's public circle has become smaller. It will take time to find out what this change will mean for the future, such as how it will change people's views, how it will affect relationships among senior members, and how it will affect the crown's stewardship for generations. Privately, courtiers admit that it is hard to balance duty with kindness. They claim that the monarchy can only survive if people think it is honest and can show warmth. The current decree shows the conflict between those two impulses, an institutional corrective meant to make the Constitution clearer that has caused personal sorrow at the top of the family. As the palace changes, this story will continue to be a touchstone in discussions about how the monarchy should change without sacrificing the traditions, continuity, and love that have kept it strong. For Queen Camilla, this event will be part of a larger story about her life that includes conflict, change, and finally acceptance. Her choices now will determine the concluding act of a lengthy personal journey, whether she decides to publicly defend her family's position, embrace a quieter plan for constructing her legacy, or seek compromise via cautious diplomacy. For Prince William, this event is an early statement of the values he thinks should govern the institution he will one day oversee. A key test of his future leadership will be how he balances those aims with the connections that make the monarchy both a governing symbol and a family. The talk in the royal halls has changed from abstract issues of succession and symbolism to the practical needs of governing how to keep an institution alive that commands respect, stands up to criticism, and maintains the ties that give it moral strength. The latest revisions to the rules are a sign of that shift, a time when little details of administration, discreetly enforced, change the shape of royal life. The drama that will develop as the crown goes ahead with management that is becoming more forceful and aware of changes will be whether that remaking stabilizes or divides, maintains authority, or deepens private damage. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and share it.